You through, Ms. Lawson? Any questions for Ms. Lawson? She's got about 3 minutes left. Next is Mr. Semmel. Are you for or against? Speaking for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quickly, and Mr. Anthony, I have the utmost respect for you. And when we came in, I was told that many members of the Democrat Party would not be in here today, hoping that a quorum would not be present, that we could not debate the bill. And if you look around, you're one of 8 that is here, and I admire you for that. I think, though, this House has passed this bill before. This is the first time I think it's come to this committee. But as we look of moving forward, and I understand your part about what is required in public education, I'm for more flexibility. I think one of the things this committee and thus the House has done is give more flexibility right now. I think those decisions made closer to home are better. The difference, I think, lies is when we talk about home rule or decisions at home, folks think about local politicians. I start thinking about the people in the homes that are paying the taxes, that are making this state move forward. And that's where I want to see more of these decisions made. One size in shoes and in education does not fit all. I think what this bill does is at least allows that debate, and that debate will come, that we recognize the child above the system. And you're right with the numbers. I think that's very important. But at least we are making the progress to support the child and those parents who are back in our districts, giving them an opportunity. And that's what really this is all about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Question.
Question for Mr.
Question.
Mr. Semmel, take questions?
Yes.
Mr. Anthony has a question.
Thank you for your. Thank you for your. I can't get it. Thank you for your remarks and shutting me out quick. I understand what you're saying, but do you realize that your superintendent, Nick Zais, is not in favor of this bill?
I would call. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The reason I say that, I called and talked with him. The first parts, there's parts in here, especially I think as Ms. Vita said, with tax credits, that a lot of people can come to you. I hope you realize, I know it makes not a sounding when I was talking, but do you realize that I, as you just said, the most important thing is that child. And Nick Zais and I have had many, many, many conversations since he was elected. Chairman can tell you that when he came before us at the subcommittee about where we can go from here. We've got to focus on this, and it's not about, though. Do you realize that it's really not about a silver bullet here? This conversation needed to be had. We need to have more conversation. I hope you realize that, and I'm sure we're going to take it to the floor and we're going to have this conversation.
Right, and I appreciate you. Yes, sir, and of course, Nick Zais, I think, is our superintendent, not just mine. And I say that, though, that as this moves forward, at least let's start having that conversation about what is best, and you are right in keeping that child at the forefront of that entire debate and those families that are representing those children. And I think as we move that forward, though, we have to realize that one size does not fit all, and we look at alternatives and opportunities for those children.
And you do realize how hard we work to do that with all the things that I mentioned a minute ago, with charter, Montessori, single gender, all the things, that the choices that have been given to people.
And we have 85 school districts in this state. One of the biggest things I want to see is that money following that child. And we've talked about that, and I think Ms. Watkins and Ms. Allison both picked up on that to bring that to the forefront. But I think we can do this in a multifaceted way. But I think this is a component of that, and it deserves to be brought.
Can I give you an example of how, if you don't mind, how Chairman Bingham and I and Ms. Allison talked about this in subcommittee? Do you realize that we have, that right now we're spending, and I got this from Chairman Bingham, we're spending $7.9 billion on education in this state. Now everybody hear that. We only got a $5.6 billion budget, but we're spending $7.9 billion. Okay, we got 700,000 kids in public schools. I brought this up before the full House when we did the budget. We got 700,000. I can't get this thing to work, Chairman. I'm sorry. Bring this. We got 700,000 kids Now let's work it down.
You have to use loftuses, that's the only one. For some reason, those three at the end have quit working.
Okay.
So you-
Well, I just don't want to be too close to him.
Mr.
We
Loftus.
got 700,000 children
I think similar.
in public schools, Mr. Semmel. And here's a solution that Chairman Bingham and Rita and I talked about many times during our meetings, during our whole time. Think about this, guys. If you really want money to follow the child, you got 700,000 children in the state in public school. You got 65,000 in private schools. You got about 10,000, so we're looking at 775,000 children. Okay, we're spending $7.9 billion, and that's federal, state, and local monies. Let's put all that money together and give every child $10,000 and let them go where they want.
Amen.
I mean, and I've been trying to find a solution for it. You know what it would create in my district? I got 4,900 students. We're working on a $24 million budget. You know what it would give my district? $49 million. Now count yours up and see what it would affect everybody else. Why can't we get this done? And the answers I get, and Chairman searched this, and Emily did, that money from the federal government, we can't pool together. I just think there's other ways other than letting someone from New York City come to South Carolina and tell us how to run our system. And you know what I'm talking about.
Thank you for the question.
Good question.
Mr. Semmel, are you pleased taking our questions? All right. All right, Mr. Herb, are you for or against the bill? I think I have the answer to that.
I'm for the bill,
All right.
Chairman, and thank you, and I thank, well, I want to thank everyone on our subcommittee for the hard work done on that. And, you know, I address this to everybody, but it's really, most of it's addressed to Coach, because Coach has some very valid questions that I think deserve answers. And Coach, I think, over the years, I think you and I have not voted far apart on anything. You know, very far, and only when you've been wrong.
That's what I'm trying to help you out.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for the golf help.
Yeah.
But I think there's some things that need to be addressed. I think just from the standpoint of it being my bill and also going through my subcommittee. And I thank you, Chairman, for sending it through there. Some of the valid questions, I think. Well, first of all, Representative Skelton was talking about a display of arrogance. You know, there's definitely been a display of arrogance in this whole process of this bill. And I'm going to read a couple quotes from the SCEA, which, by the way, the NEA, that union, they're not out of New York. I'm not sure where they're out of, but wherever they're out of, I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that there's people outside of this state influence on that side of it as well, Coach. And I think maybe influence from both sides, just be within the state. But we did, SCEA, just going to quote this, committee members for Kurzman, Witt, White, and Pitts treated our speakers rudely, but as professionals, those testifying were prepared for the show of aggression. And verbally violent attacks by her Kurzman, White, and Pitts on ordinary South Carolina residents came from the SCEA. Jackie Hicks of the SCEA, who attended the subcommittee meeting, said, these representatives, again, her Kurzman, White, and Pitts, shamefully tried to silence a citizen who dared speak the truth. The will of the people will not be silenced by bullies. In this contest, truth and justice must prevail. You know, I've known Representative Pitts and Representative White for years now, 10, 12 years, and I've never heard them raise their voice. For one, they certainly didn't in the subcommittee. So I think when you're talking about a display of arrogance, anybody who would dare try and take a dime from what these SCEA people, and I'll get to that in a second, are taking out of our school systems are going to be challenged, and we're going to get rhetoric like this to come forward. You know, we're speaking, Coach, I come from a family, I've got 6 brothers, and I had 27 foster brothers and sisters. Part of some of us went to, were fortunate enough to go to parochial school, but most of us went to public schools. So I kind of know what I'm talking about when it comes to the school system. We had, you were talking about the lobbyists who are the well-paid lobbyists. Well, did you know that speaking on behalf of keeping the money in the with the unions, we had over $750,000 per year of lobbyists speaking against this. And I have a list right here, and I also have the tax returns from the 501c3s on what they're making, Coach. And I'll tell you what, for someone who in the South Carolina School Board Association who's making $217,000, and we have a teacher whose average wage is $40,000, maybe there's something fundamentally wrong with that. I don't know. Call me crazy. But I think there's something definitely wrong with that. You brought up a very, very, very good point on the educators did not do this to our schools. No, they didn't. I don't think there's anybody in this committee or anybody in this room would not agree to you that the educators, the teachers are not part of the problem. The teachers are part of the solution in this. The legislators and the lawyers are part of it, are certainly part of the problem on that. But also the unions are part, the associations are part. I think the administrations and the overweighted, bloated administration costs are part of the problem. And you know what the biggest problem might be, Coach? I mean, you're an educator. It might be the parents who don't care.
Could be.
I mean, absolutely could be. Those parents, you know, when you go to I'll tell you, a family school, the corridor of shame, any school that has a full parking lot on parent-teacher night, I can guarantee it's probably not a failing school. You pull away from that, how many of those schools are failing? We were talking about the percentage of money, the $135 million by the estimated revenue impact for the Education Opportunity Act of the Budget Control Board. $135 million by year 2024 is a lot of money to be taken from a system. And again, I hesitate to use the word system. There's a lot to be taken from children because I don't really care about the system. I care about the kids. The ultimate goal is to educate the kids and make the kids more competitive, not just in South Carolina, not just in this country, but in the world market. But the $135 million by year 2024 out of an $8 billion budget, that's 2.2%. And we have about, what did you figure, about 10% of our kids go to a private school? So it's 65,000. So 2.2% of that budget, that $8 billion, it kind of puts it into perspective on that. That's with a $2,400 credit. We have issues I think we all have to deal with as far as maybe from the legislative end, maybe from the parent, and maybe from the total education system end. And that's, some reports are showing that 44% of our money going to administration. I mean, the administration of the schools. If we could keep that to 5% and send every other dime to the classroom, to the principals, to the classroom, to the student, how much better off would it be on that? But I can guarantee you one thing: if you bring that up, to the teachers who have sent me emails on that. Not one of them has an answer for it. As a matter of fact, I sent a reply to a teacher in Daniel Island with that very question: why is it that 44%, in some reports, 44% of the money goes to administration and not to the classroom? You know what her reply was? I didn't get a reply. I got a reply. She sent that email to one of the school board members, and I got a reply from him. And it's just almost insanity. She was programmed. She got an email from the SCEA and sent it out without even knowing what the question was. You know, when I provided an answer and questioned her, there's absolutely no return on that. And that's not an isolated case. That's what we've been getting. That's part of the problem here too. I think just as parents, I think as legislators, we've got to be cognizant of everything, of all the aspects of this. And Coach, I think your idea of backpacking the dollars, man, I'd vote for that right now. I mean, if you could sell that, if we could get the SCEA to come and say, hey, we're for backpacking that dollars, let's let those parents over there who want $10,000 to go to the school of their choice. You all would be for that, wouldn't you?
Yes.
I think everybody in the room except for the SCEA people would be for that.
Yes.
I think the school teachers would be for that. You know, maybe the administrators, maybe not. I think that would cut into the actual administration costs. So when we're looking at the problems on this, let's look at them holistically. Let's look at them as a whole and find out and see if we can't work together and do that. And Coach, in closing on this, I would just say, if you put that up as a bill or an amendment, I'll work day and night to help pass that for you. And I thank you for being here. I thank you for what you did for bringing all that up, Coach. And again, I thank everybody on the subcommittee for all the hard work that they did on that. I know we all took a lot of hits and spent a lot of time on it, but I thank them too. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right, you take questions, Mr. Turker, then we'll take questions.
One question.
Okay, I'll take a question.
So,
All right.
Can I get back?
Yes.
So Mr. Kirsten, this bill solves all those problems.
Mr. Anthony, you know as well as I do, there's no